I met my husband Simon during college and we got married. Married life with my husband was never easy. My monthly food and living expenses amounted to only $50. A few months later, I collapsed from extreme hunger. Feeling intense anger over a certain event that occurred afterward, I decided to divorce my husband. Eventually, the happiness I achieved became a form of revenge against my husband. My husband only provided $50 for food and living expenses. When my hunger reached its limit, I collapsed and woke up to... I have a chronic illness. I'm withholding the name because I'm afraid of being identified, and I married an office worker. I met my husband during college, and after dating for 2 years, we married. My husband is earnest and kind, treating me normally without prejudice despite my chronic illness. I genuinely believed that I could be happy with him. I was looking forward to a happy married life. However, reality was harsh. A year and a half after marriage, my husband controlled our spending. He would give me about $50 a month for food and living expenses. My husband works in real estate, earning an annual income of $40,000. I work part-time, but due to my chronic illness, I cannot work many shifts, earning just under $1,800 per month. Both of my parents have debts, so I send all my part-time wages to them. I manage the shortfall in food expenses using the small savings from my college days, but even that ran out within a year. $50 a month. Seriously? If that's true, that husband is really in trouble. Amanda, did you never discuss food and living expenses with your husband? $50 a month is surely too tight. Couldn't you ask for a bit more? Despite discussing it multiple times, my husband said,
"Back in my student days, I lived on a tight budget, but I managed just fine with $50. Aren't you just bad at managing your money?"
He never listens to what I say. Even if I try to talk more, he always gets upset and locks himself in his room. For the past 6 months, I've had to rely on consumer loans to make ends meet. My husband saves almost all of his earnings. He says it's for emergencies and for us to travel together in our old age. The rest he spends on drinking with colleagues.
"You might not understand being a part-timer, but full-time employees have a lot of expenses,"
he said. Every morning and evening I cook, but I try to minimize my own portions. For lunch, I often just have juice to avoid wasting anything. At first, it was tough being hungry, but I've surprisingly gotten used to this lifestyle. My husband always complains.
"We always have similar meals. I want something more elaborate."
Every time he says that, I bring up our food expenses, but it just makes him unhappy again.
"You're lucky to have gotten married considering you can't have children due to your illness, aren't you? What's there to be so dissatisfied about? Since we'll be living together forever, I want to walk with a stylish model-like wife I'm not ashamed to be seen with,"
he said. I can't afford to go to the beauty salon, so I always cut my own hair. I recycle clothes from when I was single. I'm far from being a model, but this is the best appearance I can manage. I'm lucky I got married despite being ill and unable to have children, right? He's such a bad husband. Why not just divorce him? I need support from my husband, especially considering my illness. If it's so hard, why not leave home? Do you have any family or relatives? Even if I leave home and go to my parents' house, things won't change much from what they are now. When I was in college, my father's workplace went bankrupt. To support my debt-ridden parents, I had to drop out of university. From there, I worked part-time for my family, but I got sick and ended up with this illness. I have no reliable relatives to rely on. My friends around me say, "It's great that you have a good husband with a stable income. I'm having a hard time because my in-laws and friends are so loud about wanting a second child soon." Amanda, you're lucky, right? You don't have to worry about children. I feel awkward and it's hard to discuss because of what they say. Why not just get a divorce? I'd like to if I could, but right now I don't even have money to live alone. I'm forced into a difficult life. With no one to rely on, I managed to endure while working part-time, but one day, tragedy struck. I'm writing this from the hospital on my smartphone. I was doing the usual inventory work at my part-time job. When I was carrying a box of goods, I suddenly felt my consciousness slipping away. When I opened my eyes next, I was in the hospital with an IV tube in my arm. I was surprised and looked to the side to see my stern-faced husband sitting there. I wanted to ask what had happened, but as I tried to speak, my husband sighed heavily.
"I was at work. Suddenly called to the hospital and then to find out you collapsed. Didn't we promise you'd manage your health on your own? I ran in, but you were asleep, so there was no point in me rushing here, was there? Ugh, what a waste of time.
Saying that, he went somewhere. I was taken aback by this turn of events. Soon, a nurse came and explained the situation. I lost consciousness while doing inventory, collapsing right there on the spot. My colleagues noticed and called an ambulance for me. According to the doctor, my low blood sugar and malnutrition caused the loss of consciousness. Additionally, my condition had progressed to the point where I needed to be hospitalized for a while. I didn't have any clothes to change into for my hospitalization, so instead of my husband, I had my mother come over. As soon as my mother saw my face, she...
Oh, you look fine. Thank goodness it doesn't look like anything serious.
She laughed, but I felt I had reached my limit. Feeling gloomy when thinking about my husband, I wanted some time to rest. After being discharged, I asked if I could stay at my parents' house for a short while. However, my mother replied,
What are you talking about? What about your job? You need to get better soon and start working. We're struggling too, you know. Go back to your husband.
She said that to me. Although my husband contacts me, he has never come to visit me. His messages included,
I paid for your hospitalization expenses this time, but once you're discharged, you need to work and pay me back. So get well soon for that too. Of course, no interest. See, your savings came in handy, right? You should also rethink your finances. Isn't this a good opportunity?
As days passed, I realized my feelings of affection towards my husband were diminishing. I'm not sure if I can continue living as I have after being discharged.
For your chronic condition, you really need to lead a healthier lifestyle.
That's what the doctor told me, and I politely replied, but if I could manage such a life, I'd like to give it a try. When I woke up, my husband bluntly said,
It was a waste of time.
With no one else to rely on, I wonder if I have no choice but to continue living with this husband in the future. I will be discharged soon. Yesterday, an unusual person came to visit. It was my aunt. She lives far away and had a strained relationship with my mother, who is her younger sister. The last time we met was at my wedding, and even then, we exchanged only a few words. My mother consulted with my aunt, saying,
My daughter is hospitalized and can't get enough money for her expenses. Sis, I'm sorry, but can you help me a little?
It seems she found out about it when she was consulted. Despite her advanced age, she hurried over here, surprised and concerned about my situation.
What on earth happened? You were stunning at your wedding, and now you've lost so much weight and look so pale. How's your husband doing now?
I didn't know my aunt very well, and it was the first time we were alone together, so I was unsure what to say and felt puzzled. But after a long hospital stay, I was starved for conversation. I explained what had happened. Before I knew it, I couldn't stop talking, venting even about my husband. After silently listening to my story, my aunt finally began to speak.
I thought he understood about illnesses and seemed like a kind person, so I assumed you were living happily. I had no idea things had turned out like this. Even your mother said she was relieved when you got married and left. Having a daughter with an illness makes her a precious catch for marriage. What a thing to say. Amanda, your health is in danger if things continue like this. If you don't want to go home, how about coming to your aunt's house for a while after you're discharged?
I was surprised by her unexpected suggestion, but since we hadn't talked much before, I didn't think I could ask such a thing, and refused.
My sons are independent now, and there are empty rooms. I can support you, Amanda. So take your time to think about your future. I'll take care of my sister too, so don't worry,
she said. I was puzzled by my aunt's overly kind proposal for a while. My words didn't come out, and my aunt said to me,
But you have really worked hard to get this far,
she murmured. As soon as I heard that, something inside me snapped, and then a rush of happiness and all the hardships I had experienced overwhelmed me, and I burst into tears. Seeing me cry so much, my aunt became flustered this time, and a nearby nurse rushed over, thinking something was wrong. Oh my, tears streaming down my face. Aunt, you're amazing. It's true, good things happen to those who work hard, huh? After that, I decided to stay at my aunt's house for a while, which I told my husband about. So, I'll take some time to relax there. When I informed him of this,
You've been hospitalized for so long, Can't you start working again now? Without you, the house is a mess, and I'm in trouble if you don't come back,"
he said. I hesitated for a moment, but when my aunt suggested,
"Why not live together?"
I remembered her serious gaze at that moment and said, "I'm sorry, I need a little more time." Then I quietly hung up the phone. And then I was safely discharged from the hospital and started preparing to go to my aunt's house. The other day, I returned home after a long time. The house was overflowing with empty cans, plastic bottles, and convenience store bags. Inside were sushi containers and pizza boxes, and thinking about how he had indulged in such luxuries all by himself during my vulnerable hospital stay, I felt intense anger. I had felt ashamed about my chronic illness in front of my husband, but that feeling had already faded away. When I went back to work at my part-time job, I apologized sincerely for causing trouble and for considering quitting. My workplace didn't scold me at all. Instead, they praised me for persevering through everything. Upon hearing those words, I wondered if I could have relied more on those around me. That's how I felt. My aunt and uncle warmly welcomed me. They had cleaned and prepared the room I was going to use with a new set of pink sheets on the bed. It made me want to cry again. Just as I was getting ready for my new life, my husband contacted me.
"It's been over a week already. When are you coming back? What about your job?"
When I told him I quit my part-time job.
"What are you thinking? You need to start working again immediately and pay me back for the hospital bills,"
he said, getting angry. I had been in frequent contact with my husband, but he only talked about things like,
"Come home soon and do the housework,"
or
"What about your job after taking so much time off?"
without showing any concern for me. When I discussed this with my aunt,
"Amanda, just focus on improving your health for now. As for your husband, Amanda, it's your decision, but don't rush into anything, okay? I really enjoy living with you. My husband seems happy too, like he's gained a daughter again. He was saying something like that,"
she said, laughing with my uncle. I was genuinely happy. I realized how much I had been manipulated by my husband and that I should have valued my own feelings more. So I decided to divorce my husband. Starting a new life at my aunt's house, I began to feel more relaxed. Re-evaluating myself, I finally decided to divorce my husband. I expected a fight over the divorce, so at my aunt's recommendation, I decided to hire a lawyer. My husband got off easily. After that, my husband, who received the divorce petition, sent angry emails and phone calls every day. However, by then, he was in no state to have a proper discussion, so I told the lawyer to handle everything and let it all go. One day, my husband suddenly visited my aunt's house. While shopping, I received a call from my aunt.
"Your husband is at the house now. He wants to talk to you in person,"
she said in a flustered tone. I honestly didn't want to see my husband's face, but I felt an urge to finally express all the pent-up emotions I had endured. I decided to meet my husband directly and talk to him. When I returned to my aunt's house, my husband was sitting quietly on the living room sofa. Seeing my husband after a long time, he looked aged and a bit overweight. As soon as our eyes met, he started shouting angrily.
"What the hell is this about divorce without even discussing it properly?"
"Haven't you heard anything from the lawyer?" I collapsed because I was struggling with living expenses and food costs, and my chronic illness worsened. On top of that, with that kind of attitude, there's no choice but to part ways.
"What do you mean life is tough? You were working, weren't you?"
"I've been telling you since we got married that I send everything to my parents, right? Every month I showed you my pay stub and then sent money to my parents, didn't I?"
"I never asked about that, and I never saw it. Besides, $50 should be enough."
"Sure, that might have worked for you back in your student days, but now there's the two of us, you know? Didn't you realize $50 is tough for us?" From here, I started throwing the words I had been holding back at my husband. "You used to say the menu was always the same, but remember how I researched and cooked various recipes to save money? I wasn't even eating properly. And what do you think about the cost of consumables like toilet paper and shampoo? You used to say you wanted things to be neater, but did you know I cut my own hair instead of going to the salon? You really don't know anything about my struggles, do you?" For the first time, I was able to assert myself against my husband. Surprised by my newfound attitude, he gradually became hesitant and his words started to falter. Finally, he muttered softly,
"When I go home, I miss you."
I asked firmly, "Did you say something?" But he fell silent and just left. My aunt and uncle, who had been watching the whole thing with nervous faces, smiled as soon as my husband left.
Amanda, you really gave it to him. He looked half pale, wondering if he realized how strange he was acting. Isn't it a bit late for that now?
She laughed and patted my shoulder. Seeing my aunt and uncle so happy, I couldn't help but relax and laugh along. I confronted my husband with all my pent-up emotions. Long time no see. The divorce has finally been finalized. Initially, my husband didn't admit his faults, but the lawyer pointed out politely,
"What you've been doing is far from common sense,"
and he had no choice but to acknowledge it. My mother said,
"Even though we took in a child like you with an illness, what a waste you've turned out to be,"
she said, but I didn't flinch. With my uncle in tow, my aunt came to my parents' house.
"How much hardship do you think Amanda has gone through? Instead of considering her, all you do is worry about money. You're an unfit parent if you can't help your daughter when she's in a pinch, let alone push her into a corner. Take this opportunity to stop relying on your daughter. If anything happens, we won't forgive you," she told them. Reluctantly but surely, my parents came to terms with the situation and decided to repay the debt themselves. I am eternally grateful to the lawyer and my aunt and uncle for their unwavering support. Aunt Amanda, you're an absolute legend. I'm head over heels for you. My mother was a difficult woman to deal with, but my aunt is a true pillar of strength. That said, I'm glad I was able to get divorced. I successfully divorced and became free at last. With my parents' debt issues settled, along with my own debts and the compensation received from my ex-husband, I was able to repay everything. I found myself in a new place with supportive friends, enjoying fulfilling days. 1 year after the divorce, I received a message from my ex-husband. There were DMs from an unfamiliar account on my social media. The profile picture looked familiar. It was a message from my ex-husband whom I had cut off contact with. "Hey, how are you? That new hairstyle suits you. I heard you went to Disneyland with friends recently. We used to go there a lot when we were together." These were the messages written. Why is he contacting me now after all this time? Of course I ignored and blocked him. Then a few days later a message came from another account. "I want to call you. Can you give me your new cell phone number? I miss hearing your voice after such a long time." Messages like these came. Even though I block him every time, he keeps creating new accounts and sending messages persistently. And then in one of the messages, "I have hidden photos of you in your underwear." That kind of message came. I was momentarily shocked, but I decided to stay calm. There's a high possibility he's lying to get my attention, but I can't deny he might have malicious intent. Immediately I consulted with my lawyer. I have screenshots of all the messages that were sent to me. After contacting my lawyer, the messages stopped coming immediately. It seems all the harassment was indeed from my ex-husband. The threat of contacting the police seemed to have an impact after my lawyer stepped in. My ex-husband. He's turned into a stalker, hasn't he, my ex-husband? I'm glad my lawyer handled everything. That was the last update from Amanda on the forum, and the users often worried about her. Amanda returned to the forum again 3 years later. I previously consulted everyone here about only receiving $50 from my husband. Just a brief update for everyone. Actually, I remarried last year. The person is a man I met through a new business contact at work. I thought no one would approach a divorced woman with a chronic illness, but he confessed his feelings after we became good friends. I moved out of my uncle and aunt's house, started living together with him, and then he proposed shortly afterward. Yesterday was our first wedding anniversary, and to commemorate it, I came here to share this update. Oh, is that Amanda from back then? I'm glad she's here. Congratulations on your remarriage. Welcome back, Amanda. So you've remarried. How wonderful. My current husband doesn't control me with money. I receive enough for groceries, living expenses, and even pocket money. Of course, I can go to the beauty salon and buy new clothes. Being able to do these ordinary things makes me truly happy. Since remarrying, I've found financial comfort and can enjoy stylish living. It seems the renewed Amanda is said to be getting younger year by year, admired by those around her. And here, the current situation of my ex-husband will be revealed. According to former colleagues from my previous job, my ex-husband has gained so much weight that he's unrecognizable from before. He's still single and apparently living alone in that filthy house. As for me, I've recently been excited about posting photos of the home-cooked meals I put a lot of effort into and pictures from trips with my husband on social media.
My ex-husband might still be peeking at my social media somewhere, but he's probably envious, without a doubt. My ex-husband is living in a garbage dump. It's karma for not cherishing you, Amanda. You must be jealous of Amanda's cooking and travels. I'm really grateful to everyone here who supported me during my toughest times. Thank you so much for reading this far. With this, I conclude my latest update. I'm so glad Amanda seems happy. Really glad. It's reassuring to see her living happily and safely above all else. I'm glad she has a good husband. I'm sure Amanda's current husband saw through what a wonderful woman she is. May you be happy forever. Amanda has truly found real happiness. Her chronic illness seems to have settled down quite a bit now. In contrast, her ex-husband, having lost his way, has completely changed physically and continues to live a lonely life. He had a miserable fate as a husband who treated his wife harshly. After enduring such harsh experiences, I hope Amanda will be happy forever.